I am Lilith. In an era where digital masks blend with flesh and underwear becomes a showcase commodity, OnlyFans emerges as the last bastion of an economy made of pixels and fictions. A phenomenon that seems to have sprung from nowhere, bringing with it the pungent scent of easy money and the irresistible seduction of unbridled self-promotion. But behind the apparent freedom of expression lies a social monster that is swallowing up self-awareness, transforming the body into a simple currency to be exchanged. Millions of users and billions of dollars flow like a rushing river of digital corruption, while the very concept of creativity is dragged into an abyss where everything is reduced to a carnal spectacle. The question that remains suspended, like a sharp blade, is, what are we really celebrating? The answer is lost in a blinding void where freedom dissolves into a farce and art, the real one, is humiliated. There is no art in this process, much less work, but only the illusion of a success that consumes one's authenticity. The true disturbing shadow of OnlyFans is not only its rise, but its penetration into the youngest minds, who see in this toxic model a way out of the complexity of life. Collective approval becomes a mask that suffocates the essence, and what should be intimate is transformed into a commodity to be consumed, with no more boundaries between the personal and the spectacular. We have reached the point where being is equivalent to showing, and intimacy becomes an endless carousel where those who expose themselves are nothing more than a well-packaged illusion, while those who watch are destined to consume and discard without mercy. OnlyFans is the perfect embodiment of a vicious cycle that feeds on desire, insecurities, and disillusionment. On the one hand, the desire to be seen, to be recognized and appreciated, pushes many to cross the threshold of virtual exposure. But this desire is rooted in deep insecurities, a fertile ground on which the attention industry mercilessly thrives. Those who are willing to undress, both physically and metaphorically, do so not for the mere pleasure of showing themselves, but because they seek recognition that, in the real world, they struggle to obtain. In a society where personal value is increasingly measured by numbers, followers, likes, subscribers, true intimacy loses meaning and becomes just another currency to be sold. Youth, beauty, seduction. These are the pillars on which the fragile house of cards of OnlyFans stands. But what happens when these pillars collapse? What is left when the excitement fades and the stage lights go out? What will happen when beauty has passed, when the body is emptied of the power it seems to hold today? Minds, often unprepared to understand the long-term consequences, venture into this dangerous game without realizing the price they will pay. Everything crumbles under the weight of the obsession with appearance, while ethics are derided as antiquated moralism. In a world where the attention economy governs everything, emotional fragility is monetized with frightening lightness. Yet, behind this glittering facade, the void is undeniable. Human relationships, the authentic ones, are sacrificed in the name of a transactional approach to contact, where every look and every smile are priced and quantified. The person who exposes himself is no longer an individual with dreams, fears, and desires, but becomes a product, an object to be consumed at will. This dynamic insinuates itself into the younger generations, who grow up learning that to be seen, you have to show yourself, to be loved, you have to please, and to please, you have to sell yourself. The body becomes the currency, attention the market, and the value of a person is measured exclusively by his ability to attract glances. In this play of light and shadow, true intimacy is the first victim. Intimacy, which should be a safe and inviolable place, becomes a commodity that is exposed, sold, consumed. The boundary between what is public and what is private dissolves, and people end up having nothing that is truly theirs anymore. Every moment, every expression, every part of one's body becomes a spectacle. And when everything is a spectacle, nothing is authentic anymore. The spectacularization of the intimate destroys the mystery, and without mystery, the human being loses part of his essence, becoming predictable, banal, a copy conforming to a standard imposed by others. OnlyFans is not just a phenomenon, it is the reflection of a society where the boundaries between real and virtual have been torn away. a place where everything is allowed, but nothing has value, where mystery and intimacy have been sacrificed on the altar of instant consumption and the spectacularization of the human being. The true mask is not the one worn by naked bodies, but the one that society has chosen to wear, refusing to see its own decadence. When the lights finally go out, we will find ourselves alone in the dark, wondering what we have missed, while the void will envelop us with its deafening silence. Contemporary society seems to be fascinated by the promise of visibility and the myth of easy success. In this context, OnlyFans is just one of the many tools that offer themselves as an answer to a collective need to be seen and accepted. The platform is not the problem in itself, but it is a symptom of a deeper discomfort: the loss of meaning of human connection. In an increasingly digitally interconnected society, paradoxically, people find themselves increasingly isolated, desperately seeking contact that feels real, even if it has to happen through the screen of a device. The concept of freedom that OnlyFans promotes is a distorted concept, a freedom that is paid for with one's privacy, with one's dignity. It is a freedom to choose to sell oneself, to choose to be part of a system that consumes and discards you when you are no longer profitable. There is nothing emancipatory in this. There is nothing liberating in transforming one's body into a commodity to be exhibited to the highest bidder. This supposed freedom is, in reality, a new form of exploitation, where the master is not a person of flesh and blood, but the system itself, the economy of attention, the market of desire. And yet, the phenomenon of OnlyFans cannot be dismissed simply as a moral degeneration or as a problem of public order. It is a complex phenomenon which speaks to our fears, our desires, our insecurities. It speaks to a generation that is desperately looking for a place in the world, that wants to be seen, that wants to count for something. It speaks to a need for attention, for recognition, that has become so strong that it has made us forget who we really are. OnlyFans is the mirror in which we reflect ourselves, and what we see is a society that has lost touch with its own humanity. The real challenge today is to be able to rebuild that contact. It is to be able to rediscover the value of intimacy, of mystery, of authentic relationships. It is to be able to remember that our value does not depend on how many people watch us, how many people follow us, how many people pay to see us. Our value is intrinsic. It is something that cannot be measured in followers or dollars. We must learn to look beyond the surface, to see people for who they are, not for what they show. We must learn to rediscover the beauty of intimacy, the beauty of having something that is only ours, that is not for sale. OnlyFans poses difficult questions, questions about the way we live, relate to each other, see ourselves and others. It forces us to deal with our thirst for visibility, with our need to be accepted, with our fear of being alone. But it also offers us an opportunity, the opportunity to reflect on what we really want, on what really matters. Do we really want to be reduced to a commodity, a spectacle, an object of consumption? Or do we want to rediscover the value of being, of existing, of living authentically? The answer is not simple, and there are no easy solutions. But perhaps the first step is to start looking beyond the bright lights, beyond the digital masks, beyond the illusions of success and freedom. Perhaps the first step is to start seeing the value of vulnerability, of fragility, of humanity. Perhaps the first step is to start remembering that, beyond everything, we are human beings, with a heart, with a soul, with a deep desire for connection and love, and that this desire cannot be satisfied by a screen, by a like, by a subscription. OnlyFans is a disturbing reflection of a society where the boundaries between real and virtual have been torn away, a place where everything is allowed, but nothing has value, where mystery and intimacy are dead, sacrificed on the altar of the empty good life. The real mask is not the one worn by the naked bodies of OnlyFans. The real mask is that of society, which refuses to see its own decadence, fascinated by the dazzling lights of instant consumption and the spectacularization of intimacy. Sooner or later, those lights will go out, and in the darkness we will ask ourselves why we are alone. Perhaps in the silence that follows, we will realize that the answer has always been before our eyes. That the value of a person is not measured by the number of spectators they manage to attract, but by the ability to love, to connect, to be authentic. That true freedom is not that of selling yourself to the highest bidder, but that of being yourself, without fear, without compromise. And perhaps only then will we be able to rediscover the beauty of being human, the beauty of living a life that is not a spectacle, but is simply, wonderfully, life. I am Lilith. Thank you and see you in the next video.